Welcome to a Bonzoleum video. I gotta tell you, I just had a few glasses of chai tea. Sometimes they say Tai Chi, which I do not know, although I took karate, which resulted in me getting hurt. But I have heartburn. I have a charcoal briquette burning in my esophagus. Might need some baking soda in water, which puts out any fire you have here, but it tastes like the smell of a dead rodent. So here we are. This is in Bonzoleum Studios. What I'm going to talk about today, this is For the Love of Drums. It's a new series, in addition to other videos, but For the Love of Drums. For the love of drums. You can't beat 'em. So, what I have here, Peisty Bob was kind enough to swing by and drop off some more giant beats and stuff. I just wanted to, we're going to talk about certain stuff today. You'll notice I put my Champagne Sparkle Pearl Visions drum up here. It doesn't sound bad. Hopefully the volume's good. Get ready. Tweak. So, what do we have here, you ask? This is a Peisty 2000. Let me take these frickin' things off. I'm going to be swapping cymbals up. Bob dropped off some 2000 sound reflections, a 20-inch crash model, which is about, I think it's 2006 grams, and then an 18-inch crash model, okay? Remember, in the 2000s, kind of what happened was, back in 1986, Peisty got rid of the 2002s. Not a lot of people know that. They discontinued the 2002s. Look it up. But there was a clamor from drummers, by and large, mostly in Germany. I'm dead serious. Sorry about my little pops and stuff here, but you're just going to have to deal with it. Forgive me. And they brought them back, and they were the ever classic 2002s. It was sort of it was kind of like a Coke, New Coke thing. I don't know if they did it on purpose. I mean, Coke in the short run, getting rid of Coke and then bringing back Coke Classic, in the end, turned out to be brilliant. But anyway, so my point is here. What happened is that in 1986, Peisty had the 1000, 2000, and 3000 for drum set. Okay, and of course they had the Formula 602 with the 3000 pretty much being top of the line. It's 3000 sort of took over where the 2000 was, but they were made a little differently. They had a different lathing by and large. They were a little, if you sort of, they were a little harsher sounding. So they were almost louder amplified, but they were harsher. They weren't as smooth sounding as the 2002. But the 2000s, we had a lot of the smooth sound of the 2002s, except they were the exact same, and this is my opinion, but I'm right because I'm me. Remember that scene? If I were you, I'd get out of there. Oh, yeah, well, if I were you, I'd use your body to... Is that a Jim Carrey movie? But you'll notice, the connoisseur will notice that a 2000, a Peisty 2000, as well as a Peisty 505, as well as, honestly, the old band marching cymbals that Peisty used to make. They made a 500 series, a 900 series, and a 1000 series marching band. Not to be confused with the 1000 series of the drum set that kind of look laid like 404s and with black writing. It's a Peisty 1000, real sort of basic looking cymbals, black writing. But the Peisty 1000 marching band, I think they had, was it purple writing? I can't recall. But anyway, so all those cymbals, 500, 900, and 1000, which were really heavy, the band marching. So if you ever look for a real heavy giant beat, pretty much manufactured just like a giant beat, except it has a brilliant finish, a super heavy one, looking for a Peisty 500, 900, or 1000 marching. You'll see them from time to time. Don't confuse them for the 1000 drum set. But since we're talking about the 2000 sound reflections, remember there was the 2000s and then the 2000 sound reflections. The 2000s were more or less the 505s. And then what they did is they started changing the secondary lathing from sort of the smooth line to sort of a ribbon, what I call a ribbon line. Like, woo, woo. Okay, anyway. So my point is, moving forward, is right now if you're looking for original giant beat cymbals that are a little heavier, they'll be a little different sounding too because they are made a little differently. They don't have quite as much as the shimmery sustain on the back end as original giant beats. But this is essentially, if you're... This is exactly what a giant beat, an original shape, everything looks like, except that this is brilliant, okay? So I'm going to put up here, that's a Sound Reflections 18-inch crash. It's about 1,420 grams. In my opinion, the best weight for an 18. At least B8 alloy, by the way. I'm going to move one of my Peisty giant beat multis. Eric Peisty, if you ever want to call me back, let's chit-chat. You know you're the made man. All right, so here we go. So what I'm putting up now, this is an original giant beat, okay? You'll see these embossed stamp at the 3 o'clock, which just says Peisty. People, including myself for years, confuse these for Ludwig standard cymbals, which were made by Peisty, or Stambles, or just God knows what, supers. But anyway, so here we go. So this guy, here, I'm going to listen to these babies real fast. Ready? Here we go. One of these is heavier than the other one, but for some reason Bob is going to be so mad at me for messing this up. Oh, this is the heavy, okay? Now, the neat thing about, if you're into Peisty, the original Giant Beat series, a lot like now, Avitas. You know the Avitas Zildjians? Not the regular A's, the bread and butter that have been the Zildjians all the way up until now, but the Avitas line that came out like 2 years ago. It's like you can get an 18. You can get a 20. It's not called a crash or anything. It's just an 18. That's heavily borrowed from the original Giant Beats. If you went to a store in 1969, got 10 different Giant Beats that were 18s. Some would weigh in the 1300s, mid-upper 1300 range, and some would weigh in the lower 1500 gram range. Okay? That's not true with like cymbals now. If you're going to get a 18-inch 2002 crash now and get 10 of them, each one will probably be within maybe 20 grams of each other. But the original Giant Beats, you'd have weight differentials. So sometimes you'll have original 18-inch Giant Beats in the 1,500 gram range and some in the upper 1,300 gram range. But now the reissue Giant Beats, remember the reissue Giant Beats, which I have here, reissue, are shaped exactly like a 2002. So essentially what they did, starting in 2005 when the Giant Beats came back, they essentially took a 2002 blank. Remember, they would stamp the shape of the cymbal and then hammer it and lathe it and do other magical things to it to make it sound good. So essentially, a reissue Giant Beat, which is this guy, this one is from 2010. Oh, no, this is from 05. Wait a minute. Did Bob give me the original? You know what happened? I don't know if I told anybody this. Way back in 2005 when the Giant Beats were first reissues, a Peisty rep brought a set of them to the Chicago Drum Show. I saw him. I called it Peisty Bob. Bob raced out there and bought the set. That might be the one. I'm not kidding. This is, I think, one. I mean, I'm sure there were a few they made first that went to artists and stuff, but this is one of the very first ones. So this is 1,300, upper 1,300 gram range. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on this Giant Beat, okay? This Giant Beat here, like I did before. Ready? Check this out. Here's the bell. Here's the bell. Okay? So again, if you're looking for original Giant Beats, a sound Peisty 2000, if I said sound formula at all in here when I was talking about the 2000s, meaning to say sound reflections, just I'm talking about sound reflections. If you want like a 2000 18-inch sound reflections, 18-inch thin crash will be about the weight of a run-of-the-mill 18-inch original Giant Beat and have the same physical properties, the exact same shape. Okay, like the same press shape they used to use, which I heard from a semi-reliable, I should say I heard from an absolutely reliable source. I'm not sure where he got his information, but that the shape maker, the stamper, the chunk that they use for the 505s, the aforementioned 500s, 900s, and 1000s in the marching department, and the 2000s and 2000 sound reflections, the Giant Beat shape, the original Giant Beat shape maker, was damaged or destroyed, and they didn't use it anymore. That's why, supposedly, when they did the reissue Giant Beats, they used the 2002 stamping machine. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I hope I don't hurt my back. I might. Don't hurt my back. So this is a medium from 1978, 2002. Now you'll notice, gosh darn it, they're shaped the exact same, okay? They're shaped the exact same, okay? So what I'm saying is, what is the gist of what I'm trying to say? What's what I'm trying to say? If you can't find any original giant beats, and you want to have, because remember, the 18-inch, the reissue giant beats, there's an 18-inch thin and an 18-inch multi. The 18-inch thin is going to be in the 12s. That's a really thin cymbal. The multi, which is more or less, you could say, sort of synonymous. Paiste always use the word medium. You know, people always just say they'll see medium on a Paiste, and they'll call it a medium ride or medium crash. People, it's a medium, which means like crash ride. It's Paiste's term for crash ride. Eventually in Paisteville in the 602s in the early 70s, they started using the term medium ride in the 602s. But anyway, so here we are. My point is, a Paiste 2000 Sound Reflections thin crash model in 18, and then a Paiste 2000 Sound Reflections crash model will give you a nice spread of original giant beats. They're physically almost identical to original giant beats, the shape and everything. It's just that the 2000 Sound Reflections will be brilliant finish. All right, so let me put those babies back up. So what did I just do? So here's an original giant beat. Now I'm going to put the reissue up with it. Okay. Let me get the, Bob, God love you, brother. Paiste Bob brought these babies over. All right. So I'm putting up the reissue giant beat with an original. Now here's the deal. I'm going to say this, though. I'm not knocking Paiste for using the 2002 shape on the reissue giant beats. I still, to this day, maintain that the best sounding B8 alloy line as a whole is the reissue giant beats. The reissue Paiste giant beats made from 2005 until this very day, February 12, 2019, are the best sounding B8 alloy cymbals on the planet. Again, my advice is to Paiste, if you could make a heavier version than the multi. Remember, a multi will be in the upper 1300s in 18. If you could really give us like a 1420 gram, we'll call it a medium, and even possibly an upper 14s, you could call that a medium heavy. I'd stay away from the straight up term heavy, but medium heavy, medium plus, like a steak. And then, of course, in the 20s, you could have, my 20-inch reissue giant beat multis are like 18 grams, 1830, lower 18s. Be nice to have like a 1920 gram reissue giant beat. Call that a medium. You know what I mean? So your thin reissue giant beat, I think, is in the like 17s, right? 1700 gram range. Your multis are in the low, mid 1800 gram range. You could have a low, mid 1900 gram range. Call it a medium. And then like a 2000 gram one, just call it medium heavy. Yeah. So here we are. Back to these guys. The reissue, sorry. My wrist isn't quite right still. So do you know what I mean? Let's get a little bell, because they are slightly different animals. Remember, the reissue giant beat being shaped, it's like a giant beatized 2002. God, the tone of that bell, hear how loud and that bell is so nice. It's almost piercing. You'd think it was the other way around, because the original giant beat bell being bigger, more flying, you know what I mean? All right, so what we'll do is then this giant beat, this reissue giant beat, we're going to swap this guy out for the heavier of the original giant beats. Remember the one I said in the lower 1500 gram range. Bob, I know you're going to kill me, Bob. I know I'm a melon head. For the love of God, hang on a minute here. Again, so this baby, if I'm not mistaken, this multi, this 18 is in the, I think it's in the lower 1300 gram range. I'll have to double check that. And this might be the one Bob originally got. And this one is the nipple hammering. Die-hard Paiste people will know what I'm talking about. Woo, woo. All right, so you know what I'm going to do real fast? Let me put both the original 18-inch giant beats up because I'm trying to figure out, for the love of God, I'm trying to remember which one is the 1,420 gram and the other one's which is 15. I know that's 80 grams, and I should. Oh, wait a minute, this is the heavy. Hang on a second, I can just tell. Here we go. Oh my God, you know that? Ha 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Ready? Oh my God, totally. All right, so. Okay, so this is your 1,500 gramish one. This is your 1,425-ish, okay? Again, so it would be nice if Paiste and the reissue giant beats offered essentially these weights, okay? They don't. The reissue giant beat 18-inch multis are essentially what would be a thin version of these, okay? So, anyway, so those are the original giant beats, and what I want to do again real fast. So I was just talking about that. So again, if you're like Bob, original giant beat, you're like, I got to score some original giant beats. Get some reissue giant beats. Although they're slightly different shape-wise because they're essentially giant beat ties, 2002 giant beats. You can't go wrong with them. The reissue giant beats are Golden Colorado. They should, again, just offer slightly heavier versions of the multis. You know what I mean? They have the thin version of the multi, they should have the multi, and then maybe 2 steps up in each, the 20 and the 18. And I mean, you know, it's nice they offered 19s now, too. Do they have 17s, too? I know they have 22s and 26s. They really should do sound edge hats. Remember Anthony Costanza special ordered a sound edge giant beat bottom. Paiste, you should offer those catalog. Also, too, maybe you guys could go back to the more ripples. You know, the standard ripple now, since like the mid-late 70s, has been about 32 ripples. Thanks to my main man Jabberwocky for correcting me. I was saying 34 for a long time because I have a strange cranium. I'd swear I've seen a 34. I know. You know what's funny? The original giant beats, the ripples weren't really symmetrical. They almost like they were sort of put in like freehand sometimes. You ever have like some original 44, 42 or 44, like 46 ripple? Sometimes even if you have 14-inch sound edge hats like 602, sometimes they'll have ripples in the 50s. But it'd be nice if Paiste kind of went back to a few more ripples. Maybe like 44 ripples or 46 ripples, because you seem to get a little more, they sound a little better in the sense that there's more metal touching, right? More ripples means more metal touching. But again, maybe they stopped doing that because of breakage. Anyhow, so again, I guess the message from this video is if you happen to see any 2000 sound reflections, thin crash model 18s, and crash model 20s, and, you know, there's mediums. Remember, 2000s also had mediums. Those are on the heavier side, but those are essentially giant beats. They don't quite sound the exact same, but they sound damn close, okay? So that's what we got going on. Ooh. All right, so thank you for watching. Wait a minute. Wait, did I have something else I want to put on? Oh, yeah, well, so here's the sound reflections proper. Did I put this up already? Yes, the 18-inch sound reflections proper, which I did. I'm going to put it back up again. We're going to compare it with the reissue giant beat from 2005. Well, yeah, we love the Paiste. Oh, yes, we do. A-I-O-U. Paiste, please make some 18-inch giant beats that are heavier than 1,400 grams, maybe even 2 miles. 1,420 is a nice weight, and maybe 1,500 is a nice weight for 18s. And in the 20-gram department, maybe you can make a, since both my multis in the 20-inch department are 18 and 1830, that's about the ballpark, so maybe if we get like a 1910 gram 20, and possibly like a 1990 or 2,000 gram 20. Of course, the 15-inch giant beats would be marvelous. And also, too, if you could have a 24-inch, the 24-inch multi